Hello everybody, welcome to SOL 6.15, talking about measures of center, talking about mean, median, mode, range, all that fun stuff. I am using your input to make this video today. So congratulations to the folks who have earned the honor of being the directors and producers for this. I will reveal their names in class in the very near future, but you may find some of your characteristics from your productions in there, and I look forward to sharing those with you. First thing you might hear is some really cheesy music, and I tried to find the cheesiest music available without really harming the production here. So if you hear some really cheesy music in the background during some quiet moments, that's for you. You know who you are. So I just want to get started by talking about some of the items that are on the screen right now. As always, please feel free to pause if you need to. You might see me in the video, you might not see me in the video. I'll keep that kind of a surprise, but for now you don't see me. I'm invisible, and I am just a voice from beyond. So we're talking about measures of center, and measures of center are basically ways of showing the middle of a data set. How do we show the middle of a data set? Well, we can show it a couple of different ways. We can show it by actually calculating the middle, and that would be the mean. And if I wanted to simply look at a visual middle of a data set, then I could look at median by having my data in order from least to greatest, or in other words, in ascending order. Ascending means to climb a mountain. For example, if we're climbing a mountain, we're increasing in our altitude, increasing in elevation, and just like in ascending order, we're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. If I just simply want to look at how the data looked in terms of what data shows up most often, then I might want to use my mode value, or my modes if I have more than one. If I have a mode to start with, it's possible to even not have a mode in a data set. And the last one that I might want to look at is the range. I put a star next to range because, let's be honest, we don't use range very often. We talk about it in elementary classes, but we don't really use it as a real concrete statistical measure. But in order to find it and find the spread of a data set, we would subtract the largest value from the data set by the smallest value in the data set. So taking a look at when you would use these, there is a scenario for each of them where you would use them where they would be the most appropriate measure. You know, they would be the best measure of the center of a data set. And that information is on the screen for you now. You can pause if you need to, if you want to copy some stuff down. I'm going to scroll down a little tiny bit, and hopefully you don't miss too much. Just a little bit so you can see the rest of it. And that should do it for you for now. If you have to maximize your video window, feel free. The situation where you would use the mean to be the best measure of a data set would be when you don't have any outliers. And we'll talk a little bit about outliers in a moment. But outliers are really big or really small numbers that may pull the average or the mean down or up, and they may not really truly allow you to see the statistical middle of the data. When we're talking about using median as our best measure, we use this typically when we have outliers. So if you have a data set that has a couple of really large or really small numbers, you may want to consider using median as the best measure, because you're actually not doing a calculation per se with median. You may need to find the true middle, but you're not doing what the mean says. You're not adding everything up and dividing by the number of data values. You're simply looking at the middle. And the middle is only really found if you order those values. If we're looking for mode as a best measure, the only scenarios that you would use it as a best measure is if you have a lot of identical values, or if you're using non-numerical data, or simply put, word data. So if you're using word data, you can't calculate a word. You can't find the mean of vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry. So you would simply just say which one occurs the most, and that is the definition of mode. Like I said, if you have to pause, feel free. But I'm going to move on to the next page here, and if you're ready, I'm ready too. Here we go. Talking about outlier just for a moment, I think you can see the entire thing, so I'm going to leave it alone for now. An outlier is a really high or really low number that can potentially alter the mean value, and it might make it higher or lower than it would normally be without that value in that data set. And I just put a little junk data set up there, 7, 12, 8, 19, 14, 5, 20, 400. I hope you can find what that outlier is. I'll give you a few seconds to figure that out. you'd be correct if you said 400, because 400 is abnormally large compared to the rest of the values in the data set. If you were to order that data, it would appear that 5 is your smallest value, 400 is your largest value. It's pretty big spread. If you take out the 400, though, you end up with a spread of 5 to 20, and that's more likely to give you a reasonable middle value rather than to keep that 400 in there. My challenge for you is to find the mean with the outlier and the mean without the outlier. And if you can't see that, you can. You're good. So I want you to find those two values and be able to bring that to class at the next available moment, and we can make that part of our discussion, whether it's review or if it's instructional. Okay. Pause if you need to, because we're going to move on to the next page. 3, 2, 1, and here we go. Okay, hopefully you can see that example pretty good. That example is not so bright, or not so dark rather, that you can see it. So I'm going to talk through it a little bit, but it looks like you can see it pretty decently. We have a sample data set of late projects turned in. It's right here. Late projects turned in, and we have the data oriented on a line plot. A line plot is simply a number line that allows a data set to be shown on it, and those are X's that are given, and I'll mark those quickly so you can see them. And we're going to mangle this up pretty much, so you might want to jot things down before you start advancing this video. And if we take a look at the data set, I see that we have 2 4s, I have a 6, I have 2 8s, I have 2 10s. Whoa, you probably can't see the video. Boom, there you go. And we have a 12. And that's my data set. If I want to find the mean for this data set, I can simply add up all the values. I can divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I know I'm going to divide by 8. My sum's going to go in there, and through the magic of television, I'm going to figure this out. Please feel free to listen to the wonderful polka music. And there is your mean value, 7.75. Now, if you wanted to go a step further and find the balance point from this data, you could do the same thing too. Basically finding the mean on a graph, finding it on that line plot. And by doing that, you'd be able to find a pretty approximate mean value. Balance point basically means that the data is balanced to the point where you have equal numbers of values greater than and smaller than that mean type value. That's what balance point means. And I'm going to leave it off of this particular example set in the effort to get to the next one. But feel free to do that if you wish. So that might be an extra little bit of work that you could do as a review. Could you find balance point? If you bring it to class. Let's talk about it. We're going to move on to the next example in just a moment. So be ready for that. About 3 seconds. 2, 1. Moving on. Next example. You can't see the example name, so I'm going to just bring that down just a little bit so you can see it. Here it is. Balance point and median and mode. So now we are talking about balance point, and I'm going to pull in median and mode as well, just because it's easy to pull in. So as it pertains to mode, we can use a number line, rather a line plot, to find that, because the most X's in a particular column is going to tell us what that most often found value is. And when I look at my data set here, which I'm going to help you out because it's a little hard to see. Here we go. So you can see that a little bit better now. If you have to adjust the contrast on your screen, you might need to do that just for today. Let me move this over so you can see a little bit. That might help a little bit. And there you go. This value here is a 2. So it looks like we have 4 2s. So my mode would be 2. Happens 4 times. My mode would not be 6, 7, 8. It would not be 8 because there are only 3 values there. And since I have 3 values in 8 and 4 values on 2, that tells me that 2 is going to be my only mode value. My median, on the other hand, is probably not going to be 2. It appears that I have about 11 values. Let me count those to double check. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So if I have 11 values, I have an odd number of values, which is going to tell me that my median value is already there. I don't have to do any extra calculations. If I add 12 values, I might have to add the 2 middles, but I don't have that, so I'm just going to find my median. And since I know that half of 11 is about 5, it's 5.5 actually, then that's telling me that I'm going to have 5 values that are smaller than the median, 5 values that are greater than the median. And instead of writing all this data out, which I could, and you could do the same. If you want to pause, write all your data out, it's pretty easy to do. I'll do it while I'm talking. But if I were to write all my data out, I could find the same value as if I knew that I have 5 values I had to move in on. And it's 10, that's 12, and that's 16. Now if I move in 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I know my median is going to be 8. I could do the same thing on the line plot if I want to. If I knew I had to count in 5 and then see my median, I could do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and my median is actually right here where I'm pointing, and it's 8. To change gears a little bit, if we're talking about balance point, we got median, we got mode. If we're talking about balance point, I'm looking for that statistical middle similar to a mean, but I'm trying to do it in a non-math way. I'm trying to move things around. This is where things are going to get a little bit messy, so if you haven't already drawn your line plot, do that now. It's going to get messy. Here we go. If I'm talking about moving things in to find that middle value, excuse me, I'm going to do a little bit of marking here. I'm going to move it off the 16 to the 15. I'm going to take one of these X's, I'm going to move it into the 3, and I'm going to keep moving. Enjoy the music. Do you see any kind of balance yet? Oh, you can't see it. Let me move over a little bit. I'm not seeing too much balance yet. Now I know my median is 8, my mode is 2, but I don't know my mean. If I want to stop now and take my data set and add up everything, divide by the number of values in my data set, I could do that, and that's going to tell me where I should be shooting towards. If I don't do that, then I just need to keep moving my X's. So if you want to pause now and find mean, go ahead. I'm going to keep moving. Enjoy the music. Looks like I have a little bit of balance going on, maybe around 7. Although I'm not too sure yet because I've got a gap here, which means these all have to move here, and I still have these 2 that have to move up here. I'm wondering if I have balance now. I have 4 on this side of 7. I have 4 on this side of 7. And that looks like I have balance. I don't know if you can see that too well, but if I put my pen here, look to the left and right of the pen, you see 4 X's on each side. So there is a balance there at 7. So I'm thinking that 7 is going to be my balance point. Okay, let's see if we continue, if it'll keep going in that direction. Looks like we're going to destroy this here. And I think I went out of step 1 because this should line up right here. And that looks like it's going to line up at 7. Now we can verify this by adding everything up and dividing by the number of data points. It looks like we would divide by 11, and I'll let any of our great fact checkers check that out. And we're going to move on to the next example here because we're getting a little bit late on the time. It's about 15 minutes in, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do want to make sure we cover all the main points. You're directing ideas and producing ideas, emphasize that. You want to get everything important in there. So thanks for paying attention so far. Pause if you need to. We're going to move on to the next example. Okay, best measure of center. This one you can see pretty decent. But I'll still mark these if we need to. The best measure of center, as we talked about before, dealt with which measure best explains the middle of the data set. Is it going to be mode, which is most? Is it going to be median, which is the statistical middle, but looking at just at the order of the values, or is it going to be mean, which is a calculation? The one thing that we need to look for are outliers. Are there any outliers in this data? And I would have to say the answer is no. Okay, your data is pretty evenly spread between 70 and 90. You have nothing that's abnormally high or abnormally low. So if there are no outliers, then we're going to say that mean is a really good measure of center. Might we say mode? I'm wondering your thoughts on that. I wonder if that's something that we can converse about in class as well. Bring some information about that. I want to know what your thoughts are about using mode as a measure of center as well. If you were to find the mean for this, I wonder if it would be pretty close to 75, and that would give some support to making 75, which is the mode, the best measure. I'm going to say right now that it looks like it's going to be mean, but I'm wondering what you're going to say about that. There's that blue screen again. Happens all the time. That's okay. So, our best measure of center, pretty easy to find. It all really deals with outlier. Okay? If you have an outlier, that's going to drive a lot of our thinking. If it's a mode, it's going to be really situational based on how many repeat values we have. And that takes us to the end of our lesson here. But it's not really the end of the lesson, because as I had discussed with one of my Block 2 classes, I said I was going to perform some entertaining musical numbers. So I'm going to leave the wonderful cheesy music on. That was from my Block 1 folks. And I'm going to try to perform some stuff for you. I'm not sure if you're even going to be able to see me, but we're going to try this. And I may look all washed out, but who cares? Because it's going to be fun. So here we go. I'm going to try to be in the screen here, so you can't see me. Anyway, so here's a little rap that I had collaborated on with some other folks. Hopefully you enjoy it. Here it goes. Hey diddle diddle, the median's the middle. Add and divide for the mean. The mode is the one that appears the most, and the range is difference between. Insert clapping here. Okay, I'm not done yet. Here comes the encore. I wrote this one all by myself. Going to use a balance point. Got to draw. Oh, let's start that over again. I got to make sure I get the beat here. I might need a beat, so you might want to give me a beat. You know, give me a good beat. Okay. The polka music's messing me up. Gonna use a balance point. Got to draw a line plot. You see it's similar to mean. Look at the x's you've got. We're looking for a balance, equal x's on both sides, kind of like a seesaw, one of your favorite playground rides. I need a best measure. It might be mean, but only if the outliers I have never seen. It might be median, outliers allowed. If so, shout median, all loud and proud. You like it, right? You like it, right? Last, it might be mode. If lots of repeats you've got. If they represent the middle well, shout your math is hot. Just made the last part up. I don't know if it makes sense yet. So, hope you enjoyed it. I'm not much of a musician, but hopefully it hits on some of those main concepts of mean, median, mode, range, measures of center, balance point, all of the fun stuff. And that is a long video, but you know what? I know you're going to enjoy it. I look forward to talking to you guys in class. Have a good day.